Can your knife do this? Hello. My original, well, something I had been planning a while was to do a video about knife sharpening, but I've been putting it off because there's just so many things to talk about. I wanted to make sure I had everything, all my thoughts organized and talking points organized. And you know what? I think the best place to start actually is with stropping. That's what I'm going to talk about right now. This is the strap I prefer. It's a two-sided paddle strap. Um, and I'll show you why I like this kind of strap rather than like the block. Um, this is one of the cheapest kind of straps you'll find. It's just a wooden block with a very, very thin piece of leather on top. I mean, that leather is super, super thin compared to, you know, something like this, which is why I like this. It's not just the fact that it has two sides, it's that it's higher quality. But you can get a higher quality block strap like this also. But what I don't like about these is that they're meant to be stationary. You know, a lot of times they'll tell you to take a board, like I have my paddle strap underneath it, put a couple nails, you know, in it to hold it in place. And then while it's in place, you know, strop it. I don't like that. I don't like to sharpen like that, and I don't like to strop like that. So generally, I will use a honing stone, just to give you an idea also. I have a couple different types of stones, but this is one of my favorite. This is just a 400 grit, 1000 grit, two-sided diamond stone. I also have one of these deals here where it's a four-sided stone and it's in its own holder. I feel like, I mean, this is a super cheap stone. I think I paid like, I don't know, somewhere between $9 and $12 for it. And I feel like the diamond coating tends to wear out pretty quick on these cheaper ones. Other than that, they're, you know, they'll get the job done. So I might get a lot of flaming posts telling me I'm doing this totally wrong, but using either the strap or the block, I like it to be able to move. Um, when I'm sharpening, I don't want to maneuver my wrist every which way. I like to be able to maneuver both my wrist and the strap or stone to kind of, you know, work together. So that's why I chose and why I like this type of strap. I also really like the diamond sharpening rods. They're very nice because it's also a type of freehand sharpening. And that's more what I'm used to and what works for me. I don't want to talk too much about compounds. This one here is the one I've been using and it's worked well for me. It's called Herbs Yellowstone. Comes with some nifty tips for sharpening or stropping. But I mean, when you get right down to it, it's pretty basic. I'll show you how I apply the compound though, because I've seen a lot of people, they just try to rub this stuff on the strop. You see what happens? See the corner of that, how it turns black? You're getting off, what's turning it black is the old metal that you have taken off of knives previously. So what I'll often do is take some kind of scraping tool and just, you know, kind of scrape that, and you'll see, I mean, you get a lot of that stuff off. Spine of a knife works, but it's not going to hurt your knife. you know, if you do have a nice sharp 90-degree edge and you don't want to dull it at all, you might want to use a different tool. But um, the spine of this knife works for me. Here's how I apply the compound. I take that same tool that I used to scrape the old material off, and I would just scrape some dust. And it doesn't matter if it's in little clumps here and there, you know, to begin with. I just want to get it on there. Now, if this really needed compound, I would put more on. You can see it's just kind of sitting on there. If I was to tip this, a lot of it would fall off. But that's okay, because it's all going to get worked in as you strop. The important thing is just it's there. Now, you saw I used that on the rough side of my strop. It also has a smoother side, and I used the cheapo green stuff for the smoother side. So once you got your stuff on there, let's talk about how I strop and why I strop that way. One, like I said, I sharpen the same way I strop, kind of freehand. Let me show you. So I'm almost always doing this from a seated position. And I like to rest it on my knee so this strap can swivel. That allows me to really make continuous contact with the parts of the knife that I need to. If that was stationary, I mean, my wrist would have to come up to hit the tip like crazy. I'd rather just use both my hands. That way I don't have to move anything so much. I do the same thing on a strop or a honing stone. The only thing that changes is the angle I'm hitting the edge at. Reason being, the reason you want to do them both the same way is that if you're hitting a honing stone, you're putting scrapes in your steel. And the best way to get them out is by using the same motion on the strop. Those little, you know, lines that the file or the honing stone put in there will come out quicker if you're working in the same direction. What's different about a strop instead of honing stone is that you don't want to hold it like with a honing stone. You know, you find your angle. If you get a good light source, they say, oh, you know, hold it until the shadow disappears, and that's great. Works great for a honing stone. But with leather, it's a little bit different because that leather is flexible. So if my hand was a strop, picture the harder I press, the more that leather starts to ripple upwards. You know, so, and you can see it in like the softer side, you'll see a ripple just after that knife passes over. If there's a little bit of sheen on the leather, you'll see the light kind of bend, and that's that leather conforming up and, you know, over that edge as it passes. So to work in that compound for the first time, I hold the knife almost perfectly flat. Like I'm not even touching the edge. And basically, you know, using this bevel above the edge to work that stuff in. That's all. You know, holding it very, very flat. Just getting that powder worked in. And then now you can start to angle it to hit the edge. What you need to know though is the harder you press, the more flat you want the blade. Because the harder you press, the more that ripple comes up and hits the edge. So if you're gonna try to, you know, angle the knife sharply so you're actually on the edge as if you would on a honing stone, then you want very, very light pressure, like just the weight of the knife. You don't want that ripple if you're at a high angle. If you have the knife at a much lower angle, you can press down much harder because that ripple makes sense. Following what I'm spitting. All right, I think you get the idea. So, number one, go do it the same way you would on your hunting stone. Number two, be mindful of the pressure and the angle you're using, and keep an eye out for that ripple. You know, and that will definitely save you a lot of trial and error. It took me a long time of trying, different strops and different compounds, but I always felt like my knife was sharper after I had got it off the stone. Like so if just got done honing it on a honing stone, it felt like it was sharper than when I got done stropping it, and that's why it took me a while to really kind of catch on to the fact that I was rounding off the edge. Hopefully, you'll find some of that helpful. I'll be back with more tips as I think of them. Um, I got some steel coming soon that I'm definitely going to need to work on. So I'm sure some more stuff will come to me as I work on that in the next day or two. See you next time. Hope that helped.